Yeah. You can skip in 5 seconds.
Yes.
4, 3, 2.
I would like to call to order the October 8th meeting of the Isle of Palms Planning Commission and acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified in accordance with state law. First item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from our last meeting back in August. Do we have any comments? Motions?
I motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments? There being none, take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on, new business. Review of a lighting ordinance amendment. So Douglas, what's that?
Yes, so before you go too far into this, just give a little bit of backstory, and then there's kind of a, things have changed since it came out of the Environmental Advisory Committee. So this is a work product that's come through the Environmental Advisory Committee. It's an amendment to an existing turtle lighting ordinance, which is housed in Title V, which is the zoning code. Any part of the zoning code comes through the Planning Commission for your review and a recommendation to City Council. So kind of procedurally, that's why it's here before you. The process so far has been, it went to City Council through a workshop. At the workshop, Council, I would say alluded to, if not directly told, Todd Murphy, who is the representative, informing the council about it, to go back and tailor it down a little bit to be a little simpler than it is. So it's here kind of as an introduction to you all, and I do want to just talk about it at a high level, but it's not ready for you all to make a recommendation one way or the other. So it's going to go back to the Environmental Advisory Committee. I think they're going to refine it a bit, and then it will come back to you once it's in a more in a simpler state. So the existing city's ordinance prohibits lighting on the ocean front. To have those oceanfront lights were found to have an effect on nesting sea turtles. So that's been in our ordinance for probably 30 years or so, and kind of at the end of the day, that ordinance requires you to either shield or turn off during turtle nesting season any oceanfront lighting. Apparently they confuse those lights for the moon, and they'll go towards the lights and not have a successful nesting. So what the Environmental Advisory Committee, what they were hoping to do was to expand that prohibition to reduce the amount of light pollution on the Isle of Palms. And this was being done to follow what the cities of Kiowa, Edisto, and Folly Beach are already doing. And in your packet is an overview that I hope you've had a chance to read, but it basically talks about the negative impacts of an overabundance of light. And I think at its simplest form, I mean, this is kind of similar to what you all dealt with the noise ordinance, where you have a neighbor who's shining a light, a floodlight, onto your property. It's kind of above and beyond other things. It's just an annoyance to have somebody, install a very bright floodlight that shines onto your property. It can be an annoyance. And currently under our code, there's really not much that we do to regulate that. In your packet is also a red line. Again, I don't want to spend a great deal of time other than just kind of a general conversation, but there's a red line of a series of changes that could be considered, and they have parameters that would keep an owner from spilling light onto their neighbor. There's even in there a a provision that would say light fixtures over 60 watts or 100 lumens have to be cut off from glaring into natural areas or adjacent properties. It would limit upward landscaping lighting to the low wattage architectural lighting. It has a Kelvin rating, and that's kind of the warmth of the light to reduce the kind of more harsh bluish LED type lighting. I do think that all of those specifics, I think the plan would be to take all of those specifics out about wattage, lumens, and probably pare this down to just say, do not shine your bright lights into your neighbor's property or into naturally kind of the woods or just a natural part of the island. So again, I think it's going to come back to you in a very different format, but any comments or thoughts to feed back to, so the Environmental Advisory Committee, this will be on their agenda tomorrow. And again, you all are just getting it for the first time tonight, so it would be fine if you didn't have any feedback at this point, because it will come back to you after they've had a chance to revise it. But, that's kind of where we are. Happy to answer questions about what their thought was and how we got to where we are.
Okay, so I'll jump in there.
All right.
This was a little one, but again, since I was going through this in the turtle protection, paragraph B3, again, it's a
Which
minor
page?
comment, but it says low-profile luminaries shall be used in parking lot. That probably should be may be used in parking lot. It shouldn't be a requirement to have them. So
So that's in there. So just for clarity,
if that's existing,
yeah, all
but
of,
this, again, I was reading through it, and that
Okay.
one stood out to me as, that's probably not right. It's not created an
so
issue
say
so far.
that, say that again?
So it says
Low
low
profile.
profile luminaries shall be used in parking lots. That should be may be used in parking lots. We shouldn't require you to use them.
Oh, you're not
It's-
required
it's
to
re-
light up, yeah.
I don't think we enforce that, but again, it was just caught my eye. So I would say may be used in parking lots, provided that lighting shall be positioned such that, and that's just a administrative like
Yeah,
correction
yeah.
type. But that was the first one that stood out. When I looked at this, and again, this was kind of feedback, and I kind of followed watching the environmental discussions on this in the redded section. A and B basically are saying the same thing two different ways, or not the same thing, but outdoor lighting on residential structures is prohibited. And the next paragraph is outdoor lighting on residential structures shall not shine directly. So it seems like those should be worded the same, and I would
Either.
actually suggest just combining it and saying outdoor lighting on residential structures is prohibited from shining directly onto any adjacent property, because listing all these things leaves the assumption that there are places that you could do it. And
Well, I mean, you're taking away Christmas lighting if you can't light your house. Or the nice, beautiful landscape lighting that some people.
I was going to
on Palm Boulevard.
get into that one later. Well, it's not, as long as it's not shining directly into,
Right.
is what it's
Yeah,
saying.
that part has to be made clear.
That is, yeah, I did have some issues with actually the wording of that, like I said. So that was kind of my comments on the first two. The second one was the
So
60 watt.
combine, and I will say that I think that the ultimate recommendation is going to basically stop at those two, I think. That you kind of keep your light to your property.
I would go back to like what Ron was saying, that's kind of vague and subjective.
Right. And yet, we do have requirements. You've got to light your stairs.
Yeah,
That's building code requirement.
Yeah.
And we no longer have incandescent bulbs because the government took that away. So now, we're stuck with the LEDs, and now
Yeah.
the government wants to take those away. What,
Government
Just
wants to
saying,
take
I'm in a
LEDs away?
foul government mood this month.
Yeah,
Been working in Mount Pleasant too long.
It's been Mount Pleasant junk, and now I'm getting beat up by North Charleston. and-
so that was like, yeah, one of the things
City of Charleston.
I was noting to get into was exceptions, which would
Right.
be holiday lighting and lighting required by statute.
Well, in addition, the lighting on docks is security lighting.
That's a required lighting too, yes.
Exactly, so outdoor lighting on residential structures
But,
on the intercoastal waterway, I mean, you can't get rid
but
of those
there
lights.
are some things that can work. No one can look at their bulb anymore and know if it's 60 watts, because we don't have that written on our bulbs, because they're not incandescent anymore. What's 100 lumens? I'm an architect, I don't know what a lumen is. Well, I do, but, can I tell?
But by law, it has to be written on the bulb, by the way.
But the Kelvin temperature.
But you have
is
to wear
something.
glasses to read
That has
it.
to be on there too.
Because
Invisible
LEDs have evolved. I used to hate LEDs in the
Yeah.
house. I brought some home for my wife for our cans, and I had to send them, throw them away because it's too bright. And now they have Kelvin temperatures that you could adjust.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
can come back to almost that amber glow of an incandescent, or you can go to the super bright blue. It's like,
Right.
do you want your kitchen to be, cozy or an operating center, And same is true with outside lights. So I replaced my 100-watt incandescent bulbs. I think I still have 4 left because I stockpiled for my garage lights. And those puppies are bright, but I replaced them with LEDs, which is a brighter, wider light. I never put my lights on, fortunately for everybody, but they are kind of bright. And, they talk about equivalencies, but, what's,
I just have a problem when it says on the docks. When you're coming down the waterway late at night, I'm glad they have lights out there.
Well, again, it's not saying you can't have lights, you just can't have like a spotlight shining down the waterway. It has to be directed
Well, but
onto the property
But it says outdoor lighting on residential structures is prohibited.
from shining.
From shining,
From
so that's,
shine directly onto the intercoastal waterway. Well, the dock is on the waterway.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
if there's spillage, I don't care how big your cone is.
Well, again, I was looking at what they had and kind of going, by what they were looking at. So I would agree with you there that it's poorly written and vague. So I think the actual getting down into further down in the C section would be the way that you would actually, so I was going to jump to that one real quick. So the 60 watts, 100 lumen, it goes back to nobody measures bulbs by 60 watts. They copied this from somebody. 100 lumens is ridiculously low. A standard 60 watt bulb's about 700 to 800 lumens. So that in itself doesn't make sense.
I agree.
Looking back, so basically,
might have been 1,000 lumens type of.
it could have been at whatever time.
It's true.
Looking through some, like a lot of other places, it tends to be this 40 watt, 300 lumens being the historic kind of norm. And then trying to figure out what that really means is, and I could use my house, I got a porch light, right? So if I've got a 40 watt bulb and it's exposed, that's fine. If I put a 60 watt bulb, then it needs to be shielded. That's where it comes, and that also relates to aluminum of, don't put the 100 watt porch light up, put a 40 watt porch light and you're fine. You don't need to do anything. So I think that's where that kind of concept came from. So that's one of the things I would recommend is residential lights fixtures in excess of 300 lumens shall be shielded in such a way that the point source of light will not be visible from any adjacent property. And I was trying to keep some of the.
300 exterior lights in excess of 300 lumens
Lumens.
shall be, say that again?
Shall be shielded in such a way
Shall be shielded. Okay,
that the point source of light will not be visible.
hey, Rich, can you hear me?
How you doing?
Good, I'm gonna turn you around so you're not just looking at me. So we're talking about the lighting ordinance, and I'll give you the short update that the Environmental Advisory Committee is going to be revamping what's in your packet already, but the group here is going to give some feedback to them. They meet on it tomorrow, so they're going to give some feedback now. But it'll come back to you after they've looked at it.
Point source of light is that's a good thing to
Right.
have in there, because I don't care how big your cone is, you're gonna get spillage.
Right. So, but the bulb itself
Yes.
being shielded,
That's
which
good.
I was using that terminology, that I found some other stuff, but that's what we used in the earlier section. So instead of trying to reword it,
No, that's
keep the
good.
same
So
wording.
how-
How would this be enforced?
So it becomes, yeah, that is a difficult. Most of this would apply to your your electricians and stuff when they're putting in new fixtures. Does that stop a resident from taking out a 40-watt, equivalent and putting 100 in its place? Well, if the neighbor complains, again, bulbs are required to list the lumen output on them. And I'll go into, I got into, kind of detailed on this. The old candelabra bulbs that you use, the chandeliers of 40 watts, those are generally 280 to 250 lumens. If you buy a 40-watt incandescent round bulb, those are generally 400 lumens. So it becomes kind of a, but again, it's the intent of, you're going to have somebody complain. And then if it's becomes to that where somebody says, well, no, that's, my light fixture's fine, they take the bulb out and look at it.
Because, I'm thinking about, there's reasons for illuminating your yard. One
Yes.
is staircases to get to
Right.
the yard. Mine is to let the dogs out at night, and as I go down the stairs, and make sure that they're not getting eaten by coyotes. And so mine do kind of shine laterally. Of course, I have no neighbors, because they're all rentals. But when they are there, I don't want to necessarily bother them. But their lights can come on and bother me too.
Yeah,
And we've just always dealt with it, especially the one vacant house that always is leaving the lights on and no one cuts them off. So, I've always thought, if I had a 22, because I'm sure they have a camera, and I would go there and unscrew the light bulb, because that's really kind of mean. They would call the property manager, and they'd spend a couple $100 to find out that their light bulb was just unscrewed and that the fixture's fine.
in most of the cases, you can just tilt the fixture down.
Right.
It's,
So this
that's,
is illuminating a pool that's in the yard.
yeah.
So, it's directional, but it's, it's not just down.
Yeah, and that's what that would be saying is, if you've got 100,
Right.
bright spotlight, as long as you've got it directed down so that you can't actually see the
Right.
bulb.
And it would encourage, in that case,
And that-
landscape lighting around the pool,
Right.
Yeah,
which would be nicer for everybody anyway.
The other thing you need to address in there is security lighting that's motion sets, or motion sensing, that come on
right.
when something's in the yard, like kids running through the back of the yard, falling in the marsh. It's nice to see that they're there. And then
Yeah.
they go off, there's a timer set. And I think that needs to be addressed when you're talking about bright lights.
Well, and again, but if using
put
that
them-
wording,
Yeah.
you're still not prohibiting those types of lights as long as they're not
Right.
shining to your neighbor's, at your neighbor's house and shining in your yard. They can, I do agree with you. It'd be nice to,
Well, the
have,
problem is all the houses are up.
Yeah.
So all the lights are up. People next,
Yeah.
on all sides of you are also up, so they're probably not seeing them. They're seeing the yard illuminated, which then theirs kick on, so theirs is illuminated too. But I think, some of the studies that are quoted in this insane abstract talk about auto sensing and time sensors and all these things that go on and off as being good, while permanent lights being on all the time are not good. And so if they're shining in the, well, probably going into more detail.
Yeah.
And two, back in the day, places like Wild Dunes would always require conal type flood light, and that which they would review it, plan review, their design review, which we don't have. And I'm just on Google's website now, just searching for LED floods, and so far, I would, maybe 5% have a hood.
Those are
Go on
pretty
Amazon,
obnoxious.
there's
They're all obnoxious, but none of them have hoods.
Right.
And so, the lazy homeowner, that's where they're shopping, that might work, but it depends on where the light
And
is.
even some of your rings do. They
Um,
have
Yeah, so,
But you can't just point them down?
Yes.
You can point them down, but if we're talking about
Well, a lot of the,
a cone to protect the source of light with an LED, which doesn't have a bulb,
well, yeah, but most of those, yeah, the LEDs are directionally focused in the lens, so they
Right.
don't. And again, you would not, again, it goes back to, are you looking directly at the light? And if you can see a line, shadow in the line, you just, yeah, basically you're saying, make that line on your property line, and you'd be good. So, yeah, that was kind of where the wording of it, I thought, was in the intent, where I went with that one.
Well, I think the one you pointed out earlier, A has to be rewritten, that's just,
Yeah.
Or you could combine those.
But I think that, yeah, that what I just read would probably solve 90% of your issues. And the last one being upward, because that gets back to landscaping, that goes, I think they reference to, what is it, darkskies.org and their recommendations.
yeah, but that, you know, when you go back to the original stuff, how expansive are they trying to get with this thing? Because,
So
you know, there are no good studies on,
I think the example that kind of keeps getting brought up is a new house gets built and they just cover it with floodlights. They're wanting it to be,
showcase.
they want it to be lit up like an event space, like you're at you're
They want to
in a
leave.
soccer game.
that can look nice. I mean, there are some people that do put lights now in their eaves,
Yeah.
and one of my neighbors has done it, and it's successful. There are like
Those are
3 of them.
downlights, though, aren't
They're downlight,
Yeah.
yeah.
Those are, but those
And-
aren't shooting out. They're-
And generally, those are not, they're accent lighting, they're not
Right.
bright, so they would fall under that
They'd be less.
300 lumens
Right.
easily.
So wouldn't, if you cut it all away and only had C, and you reworded C to say what you're saying, light fixtures in excess of 300 lumens shall be
Shield.
shielded
Shall
so
not
that
be
you
vi-
can't see
yeah.
the source point
Yeah.
on
glass
adjacent
spillover,
properties
adjacent
or natural
properties.
areas. Couldn't that just be it?
Pretty much, I think.
As long as, they have to draw a line between the
300
houses and the
lumens
docks
is
that
less
are on
than
the
40
water.
watt.
Huh?
Right.
300 to 400 lumens is 40.
There's not a
It-
floodlight.
Yeah, it varies, and that's why I said, the round
Candelabras.
40-watt bulb, but the candelabra bulbs, if you look them up, they're generally less.
I do think that you have to separate the waterway structures from houses.
Well, I think
So you don't think are you saying cutoff lenses for bright lights on docks,
Well, there's,
cutoff lenses are not appropriate?
I don't know what the
Well, I
code is
think-
for security lighting on docks now. Those are just big
You-
lights.
You said it earlier, I think, Douglas, that other than those required by code or
all.
other governing authorities.
But I don't know what security dock lighting, if there is a code for that.
Not in South Carolina.
I didn't see it.
South Carolina adopts the Coast Guard recommendation guidelines, because they're not even law, they're just guidelines. So it really doesn't address dock lighting, saying, you have to have them or not have them.
You know, people that have video cameras on their docks, which almost everyone does now, you have to have light for the camera to function to get the name of the tugboat that runs into your dock.
So and I do, the Environmental Advisory Committee went around and around about the marina, lights at the marina. So they honed in on the language, specifically
docks,
residential
waterways.
structures. And I know that was the bulk of their deliberation was on homes. And I think they are considering a residential structure to be outside of a dock. I don't know that they really dug down specifically on that question, but maybe that's the addition to C. Lighting fixtures on residential structures, kind of qualify
Yeah.
that as a home.
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth on that.
But I know that was their intention, to
Yeah,
not capture the marina, commercial parking lots.
Well, so you're gonna have to get rid of the light on the gas docks, which shines right into the house and waterway that just got sold.
See, we're-
That is a huge light.
Yeah, and this isn't addressing that because it's not that's a commercial property.
That's really what the
Right,
problem
this
is.
specifically is
Yeah.
residential
If I was
structures.
22 and I lived there, that light would always be out.
Yeah, I just don't have anything that low caliber.
You can't believe how bright that, I mean, the whole end of the block lights.
Really?
I'm not that good at slingshot.
So really, I think you could, I guess, mix A and
Oh,
C.
BB gun as a kid.
Outdoor lighting on
Street lights.
residential structures in excess of 300 lumens shall be cut off or shall be
Shield.
shielded
In such a way.
such a
that-
way that it's, the light source is shielded and not shine directly.
Beyond your property?
Outside of your property.
Well, they can reword it, it's their.
The lowest lumen floodlight I could find on Amazon is 2,000.
Really?
What?
And not that we should make decisions
Yeah.
on what Amazon is selling, but
But that, you could buy that, you would just have to shield, you'd have to
Shield it, right.
direct it.
You'd have to direct
Well,
it so it can't
right.
be, you can't see the element of it from,
But of course, you know, they're showing pictures of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
doing
And I
that.
think that is what they're wanting to stop.
Right.
Somebody buying 2,000 watts and pointing it right at their neighbors.
Right.
Pointed at the neighbor's house, as opposed to tilting them down.
So do you have to put anything in there on how this is gonna be enforced?
No, no, I
So
mean,
this
there
is just
have,
a recommendation.
no, it will be in the code, but the enforcement won't get addressed in the code, but it'll have to be enforced. And it would be enforced, I think, very similar to how the turtle lighting is enforced now, kind of on a case-by-case
Yeah.
basis.
So the
As-
livability officer
Yeah,
goes.
Code
Yeah.
officers,
Code enforcement, code enforcement deals with it.
Perfect.
I think they would deal with it in a, somebody's talked about, we stamp plans that say on oceanfront houses, shield your lights. We probably, if this passes, would stamp plans on new construction, minimize your floodlights or point them down or use 300 lumen fixture. We would regulate new construction, and I think existing construction would be dealt with very much on a reactionary basis. I think the hope is that over time, and part of what, and I don't know how this happened, but it's in your packet, the comparison of the various different communities showing that Isle of Palms light pollution is like off the charts when compared with our neighbors. And
I think you need to have a fact check on that.
Yeah.
that doesn't seem,
Yeah.
No.
I can see compared to like Edisto
Which
being
pool
one.
of information
There's
did
a-
they torture
You know, you
those
go out on
statistics
Edisto Beach,
from?
you can go out at night
Yeah.
and see the stars.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore in most of the places on the
Right.
Palms.
No, you're right. I mean,
Yeah, for-
And that's what, that whole dark skies orb is really kind of,
But if you were to walk
Focused
to
on-
the beach, you'd still see stuff.
yeah, on the beach,
Yeah.
Or if
but
you go out after midnight when everyone's lights are off,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think
Your renters
about,
turn their lights off?
they all go off automatically.
when you walk to the beach for the fireworks on 4th of July, it's still pretty dark. It's not,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I was wondering where they're going with this, because when they start quoting Chinese studies, that really kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
I miss that.
And the AMA,
yeah.
and I read the paper from China, it's one single city. You don't believe anything coming out of China anyway.
Something
And
came
certainly
out
don't
of
believe
Wuhan.
Folly Beach.
Huh?
Something came out of Wuhan.
Yeah, that one kind of surprised me too, that there'd be that much difference.
It's all their
Yeah.
lights that fail anyway.
They may have done that
And
study
yet-
during, when there was cloud cover over the southern.
They didn't do Seabrook, which is very strict on light.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even use a floodlight on the beach. You can only use can lights. They'll have doors in the ocean too, because the house lights inside would distract from the turtles.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to go there.
So I was going to jump
That
into
come-
D if anybody's ready to move
All
on.
right, go ahead.
I don't mean to cause that much controversy, but, so, and you can, since you're sitting there, Ron, low wattage architectural lighting. I searched that, and that does not come up with anything per se, that terminology. I don't know where it comes from.
So architecture would be decorative of some kind, but yeah.
I've heard of
Low voltage.
low voltage landscape
Landscape
lighting is
lighting,
a proper term, but,
Sure.
but that one was not, so.
Do you think it's low voltage?
Yes.
Yeah, those
Not
are-
low wattage?
Yeah.
I think it
Low
should be
voltage.
low voltage landscape.
But couldn't it be the
Architectural-
same, couldn't it be the same, if we're going to the wattage, you can have low voltage
High watts.
right? Very
Equals
bright,
IR.
low.
Yes, so yeah.
So we should go back to the 300 lumen?
And I would say 200 on landscape lighting,
So for-
actually, because if you look, typically landscape lighting is, 300 is bright landscape lighting. Very little of it goes above that.
Probably those that are uplighting palm trees might be 300, I don't know. I've not,
When you're trying to, when you're trying to uplight the whole side of your house, that's probably 300. A palm tree is probably in the 150
okay.
range, you know,
Well, they got 3, 4, 5, they're getting higher wattage on those little tiny
Yeah.
bulbs now.
right.
right.
But they don't
Right.
last 2 weeks. The must be turned off at 10, if they want to send someone out to my house to adjust that meter every day,
So
feel
the-
free, 'cause I'm not doing it. Because every time you lose your electricity, the thing gets shut off, and you gotta reset everything, and I just won't do it.
Well, you notice they lined out should, and so in the discussion on that, that was the thing is, we shouldn't have an ordinance that says should. So that's how it got turned to must. And I think that kind of lines in with the turtle thing of, again, you don't know your lights are on all night until, it may take the police knocked on your door, go, your lights are on after 10 PM. You go, oh, I need to reset my timer. Or turn the switch off for tonight. I think that's,
I just think the word must is like,
I think that one's coming out. I
Yeah.
think that was kind of feedback of this is getting too onerous in terms of administration enforcement. So I think D would come out. I think really it's kind of the spirit of A and probably mixed with C. Well, and B, B's kind of in there.
but yeah, that was my, I
A,
guess.
B, and C, I think it's going to be carved down to some version of A, B, and C.
And I think, yeah, that whole upward was really more about the light pollution facing up, because it's not necessarily disturbing the neighbors, but it prevents you from seeing the night sky. But if you were going to keep it, I would say, make that one 200
200
lumens and just stop there.
Okay. All right.
That majority landscape lighting would be less. And people that actually do that for a living are going to do the right things. It's the homeowners that come in and like, I just want as bright a light as I can get shining on my house at night.
Yeah.
Or the Griswold who's
Yeah.
decorating his house for Christmas.
well, we have that in our block. The whole block.
And then my other one was, yeah, again, going into like, do you have exceptions? And I think Christmas lighting would be okay with those changes, because it's not going to be over, Christmas bulbs are not over 300,
Any
generally.
individual one.
Individually. If you do the Griswold thing,
Doing the Griswold.
you might have a
The,
problem, but.
projector with, yeah.
Aw, no more projectors.
Yeah, you won't see Santa this year.
And again, if you just limit it,
You would be shielded from seeing the light source, right? And even in the projector situation.
You are.
yeah.
Yeah, it's facing.
It's facing the
So-
building.
And I think that would cover it. And again, is if we found out later that, people are putting 1,000-watt, then the reflections from that are disturbing the neighbors, we might revisit it, but,
Usually they're subdued, they're green, they're.
yeah.
Right.
Well, no, I wasn't talking about just Christmas holidays, but like the security lights
Oh, yeah.
that make you feel like you're living next to a Motel 6.
That's where when we get a water invasion of Isle of Palms, you gotta know they're coming.
Yeah.
Well, could they start with voluntary compliance?
I think that's what the.
I think that
tact-
was the
Put this
intent
on
was,
the-
yes.
Put it on the burner for a little while until they can kind of work out the,
I think that is what this idea of scaling this back would be, put in the kind of bare minimum, which I think they're thinking would be basically A, maybe with some, and then all the rest of this just be advisory. You know, here's the problem with, you know, incorrect Kelvin lights and.
Because Florida cities, they did Key West and Sarasota and another one down there. They kind of went voluntary at first and then worked with landscape architects and lighting people to get
Yeah.
it fine-tuned. And they had success when they incorporated the whole neighborhood in the process of educating them on what to do
Yeah.
and this, that, and the other. So they could, everybody was on board with it.
Yeah, I think that is a big part of how they plan to approach it.
And then some of them even broke it down into commercial and residential. Commercial had different standards because of safety and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And residential was a little bit different.
So maybe you can answer this question. Why in this area do they put lights on every other stair?
Just as an alternative for light illumination of a stair requirement.
Well, yeah, but why every other one? When people don't fall on the ones that are lit, they fall on the other
Well, it used to be, when you build inexpensively, you had a stringer down the middle, so then they had to stagger them, which is just even more confusing. But now it's all low voltage, and so they're tape lights. And now with tape light, you can do every riser effectively and inexpensively.
Because all the houses, we have a light
Oh, yeah.
with a grill,
Mhm.
and then you skip a stair, and then
And
you
there's
get.
the light with the grill. Those are on the way out. Those are,
Okay,
should be.
thank you.
Can't
But
put
that
those
was
rules anymore.
minimum code requirement,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
If
That's
you
why-
didn't- if you didn't have
You
a-
could do all
you
of
didn't have a
them, but-
downlight or a floodlight to illuminate your stair. But there are other ways you could handle it. You could do little lights on your newel posts. Just, again, as long as it met whatever the lumen requirement was.
I'm just concerned about safety.
Right.
All of our friends keep falling down the
Mhm.
stairs.
All right, I'm ready to.
Does
right.
this apply to
Those
streetlights
are
as
still
well?
low voltage. and
Streetlights?
They could
No,
chop those
the-
out
well,
with
there
tape
is
lights
a-
and put-
there
put
is
lights
a,
on the stair.
Turtle
Yeah.
lighting.
Put 'em on every
Existing
stair.
streetlight
Those grills.
section, and
Oh,
there is
that's
a,
true.
there's
Just
a
leave, abandon them.
change there. We're currently, apparently, we require low-pressure sodium bulbs in our streetlights. We met with Dominion on that. They haven't produced that bulb in 30 years. Yeah, so that's being struck, but other than that, that's the existing code just says that streetlights should be directed away from the beach. Did say they had to be low-pressure sodium bulbs, but that's coming out. And that part will stay in the sea turtle protection section. All right,
Okay, shall we
I think
move
that's
on?
good feedback.
So much for
We're
not
already
visiting.
past
yet.
our deadline.
You
Yeah,
asked.
You
12
just
minutes-
did it
12
for
minutes
them.
are
We're
up.
on,
You
we're
just
on
did it for
Douglas's
them tomorrow.
overtime.
You made it easier.
So we're moving on to the review of the
That matrix.
matrix.
I will say, you all are, every committee has a matrix that they're dealing with. You all are leading you're ahead on your list.
Well, that's what you told us 2 months ago.
Yeah, you're staying ahead.
We're that far ahead.
You're that far ahead. Amy, if you have it up, the second recommendation, it's red, it's pink. It says, when you have recommendation number, it's number 36. That one is also,
Can go to green.
that one also is underway with the walkability study. And just for the benefit of this group, that study is having a open house to kind of talk through and gain feedback. I think it's the 20th at 5:30. Does that sound right, Nicole?
Yes.
20th.
When one?
Uh,
I'm on it now.
Yep, that one, second one down. I need my glasses.
Maybe
Create a clear
green?
Yeah,
path. of traffic
just
connection.
in the far right column, underway with the COG walkability study. And I would make that green.
Where is that? You
Oh,
know?
at the rec center, sorry, yes. Yeah, October 20th. So how do you all feel about, I think this group has talked about the acquisition of properties. And I think that if I had to, I think the group has sounded supportive of it when kind of feasible. But I guess the idea is that it's probably rarely feasible, but would that be your, would you agree with that kind of characterization of your feelings?
Yeah.
So Amy,
As in, is there any funding for it? There's an appetite for it, but I don't think there's funding for it, so.
Well,
yeah, the
it's-
green belt, there's,
Is there, all the stars would have to align.
yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to almost know about something before somebody else comes in, swoops up property, and
Yeah, it would have to be very, I could see it, I guess, being in play if there was,
Well, we
another
can't-
Hurricane Hugo where
We can't
things.
identify a lot of the parcels because of the change in the reporting processes for constant flood
Right.
claims. So it's kind of a moot point. If I could strike that one at this point in time. I don't know where I don't know where you put it other than in the comprehensive plan just as a suggestion for
Yeah, it's-
future.
It's listed as an aspirational recommendation with with the most expensive, so I think everybody kind of acknowledges it's a,
Never gonna happen.
so, Amy, on that one, I would say number 57, focus on, to the very far right, Planning Commission supports as land becomes feasible, if and when it becomes feasible.
If we lose enough houses in the next couple of storms, it might be affordable. Just no shh about it. It's a serious issue.
It is. I just,
Yeah, I know what you're doing. Don't give Mother Nature any more ideas.
that's right. Steer her elsewhere.
I was trying to think, is there anything that even potentially, it's like, does the AT&T building is probably the only.
What, you want to make it still purple or keep it?
I would say once the group has settled on it, we put it as green. So we kind of can focus on the non-green ones going forward. And I think the same is true, I would say the same is true, it's almost the same thing, about 5 down, yellow, purchase flood zone, purchase flood-prone property.
Right.
Yeah, I can't see them, my eyes are getting so bad. Yep, that one, Amy.
We had actual purchases, we're going to change that to the plan commission supports when land is feasible,
Yep,
and then they get.
Are there any state or federally funded grant programs that would come into play in that one?
yes. Yeah, that was kind of Sandy's point, that we used to actually be able to know.
What
There was a
properties were
published
flooded.
list that were of multiple flooded properties, but that's become protected. I guess it was having an impact on values, I assume. But the owners themselves know, and there are grants to,
And y'all have a list of what used to be those properties.
yes,
So you've already reached out and contacted people
We
about
have.
them. So that's kind of,
we have.
you know,
We had a list up until probably,
3 years ago.
yeah, maybe 3 or 5,
And I don't
5
think
years
that
ago.
list would necessarily
They
has
all had
changed
a
a lot.
Hugo, they all had an 89, and then they all had one additional one, and then there are handfuls that had, 3 or 4. So there were a handful of kind of bad ones, and then there was, I want to say there was about 40 that were 2. I think with, I do believe that in the last 3 or 4 years, there have been a lot that have had an addition, have had now 2. So Hugo would be one on almost everybody. And I feel like
The
the
2015.
Nor'easter, 2023 probably generated a lot. I don't have exact details on those, but I think that list, while that list was getting shorter, was getting smaller because everybody had one at Hugo, those older houses were getting demolished and replaced, so they're coming off. I have a feeling that the list is probably growing here in the last few years.
Is there any data on people who don't make claims?
No. Yeah, that was part of it. We actually were contacted by owners interested in applying for the grant funding, but they didn't have any claim. They didn't have a claim history. So we actually filed some applications showing proof and showing, even though they didn't file a claim, it actually happened. And it was deemed ineligible because they hadn't actually paid the claims. That's part of, I guess, the grant requirement, is they have to have actually paid out.
So bottom line, we're still,
There is money. I mean, I think there's a small, and I bet that it's very impactful in, they bought out a lot of land in kind of more rural West Ashley,
yeah.
where the land values were not, it wasn't, you didn't have to come up with $1.2 million to buy a little tiny house. It's not as economically feasible for us as
Yeah.
it is. The FEMA requires a cost-benefit analysis, obviously, and rural West Ashley, it makes
More sense.
more sense.
I mean, yeah, that's what I was trying, is there anything that you're not already doing? And that's what I'm hearing is you're already doing what you can, and
Yeah,
just, it's the
It's-
fact that nothing's really happening is not,
right.
not because of lack of effort. but
That's
just-
correct. The stars don't align for this to happen right now, but I think if they were to align, either by virtue of more funding being available or pricing coming down, then I certainly think it would be wise. It just doesn't happen.
And I was trying to think anything, the only other thing that crosses my mind is trigger-wise would be, houses that are on the market for long periods of time that aren't overpriced because they're all, might be,
When you buy a house, two things, one thing happens before you buy the house. The seller has a disclosure form as required by law in South Carolina that they have to fill out. And that is one of the questions on it. And number 2 is, when you get your declaration page for your flood policy, mine shows if
Yeah.
I've had a claim or not.
Right.
And I do have a property that had a claim in, when was that, 1989? Golly. That shows up as having had a claim. It doesn't, there's not a lot more detail.
Right.
So someone buying into a property, hopefully knowing they're buying in on a flood zone is gonna ask to see that deck page from the previous one, or try to assume the previous policy is what a lot of people try to do, rather than try to rewrite one, especially when the government's closed.
But I was looking at the opportunity for the city to buy a property like that's had a bad flood history. If there's people wanting to buy it, they're probably not going to sell it to the city. But that kind of goes back is if there was a property that's been like out on the market for a year, it might be worth looking into, is that why it's not selling?
Yeah.
Um,
I was trying to think outside the box a little bit. It'd be nice to take them off the rolls, but
Yeah.
that creates problems too, because if the city owns them, then it's not a taxable entity on the books either, so it's not necessarily a lot of incentive there for the city to buy.
Yeah.
Or to be in the market, or to even to acquire one that's gotten, grants to buy it.
I hadn't thought about it until you talked about it, but it is much more likely that the city would support the grant funding to elevate those houses. I mean, that is a thing
Right.
that actually happens, that we don't actually buy them and take them off the tax rolls,
Right.
but we have supported now, one, successfully, two, additional unsuccessfully, of getting somebody the ability to elevate the house and build a new foundation. It then is not flood prone. It's not a liability in the event of a storm to the city and the owner. So I don't know if this is in the stormwater, that one is in the stormwater management kind of line of the plan, but it really is an adaptation for sea level rise, that we would be getting those low houses up and out of the floodplain. So we probably don't need to add more recommendations, but we could maybe make mention of that as kind of a add-on, that in addition to purchasing flood zone property, support grants that would allow those properties to be made flood resistant. Amy, you get that? Purchase flood zone property?
I'm going to add that to the recommendation.
I want to say support.
Yes.
213, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So number 213 and 57 are basically the same. They're both
Mhm.
green now, both aspirational, and it is, the planning commission is okay with it when and if land becomes available.
What she said?
Yeah, 57 is more pocket parks, 213 is more flood level concerns. So it's really 213
Okay.
is,
Nicole, text me what you said.
Yes.
Come on, Mrs. Williams.
all right. You all are approaching the time where you're not going to have a record.
Right. We
You're
can't
going to be
have
the
that.
worst of the city.
I
You wanna
think
make
so.
sure-
We're the only one
If
have
it's-
anything done.
And I think you've, let us, I think that's good on the matrix. I mean, you really are getting to the point of.
Can I add one suggestion?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Take
But
your time.
You got 3
I'm
minutes.
I know, the world's worst. Stop talking, Sandy. 240.
Yes.
Could we take out the end of that commentary compiled in 2003 for the city's 50th anniversary celebration?
Do you literally want to take it out of the comp plan? That's where it came from. It's in the recommended comp plan.
What I'm leading to is that it'd be nice to have a repository for all historical information that anyone has. whether it was at the celebration or
Documents
otherwise.
compiled, period.
Yeah. Someplace in the building.
As you all are the authors of the comp plan, and this is coming from the comp plan, are you okay with that edit?
Yes,
Sure.
yes. Well done.
We haven't seen any edits yet, so we don't know.
Well, I was kind of, I won't, no, I'll stop and wait till next month.
When you're on the city council, you can do whatever you want.
That's right, he's gonna get to look at the comp plan again.
I was gonna say, I think
Gonna
we
be a first
explored,
time.
we know it exists and it's
Yeah.
around, so we kind of explored that, so it's just a matter of somebody identifying where to go,
Yes.
which is different than this tasking.
Be nice if
Amy,
we
you
could
got
get the AT&T building and
Yeah.
put a museum in over there.
Just put it in the, put it also in the remarks, in the status, that we need to change the comp plan to reflect that.
Mhm.
And I have started working on scanning stuff into those.
Okay, thank you.
Some of what you have, I have the originals.
No comment.
Ooh,
You took the pictures.
I was gonna say, I was thinking you took the pictures.
1898.
Darn, you look
I
good.
don't want to take it, but I'd be glad to scan it in.
Yeah, I have, a lot of those were my postcards and
Yeah, I
some of my
remember that.
stuff.
So you're leaving us with just a couple left to do?
Yep. Need something for next month.
We'll find something else.
Yeah, the lighting will be back.
Will never go away.
It'll go away. Noise may never go away, but lighting will go.
So do we have any other new business?
Well, that's pretty good.
Do we have any motions to adjourn?
So moved.
I was gonna let Sandy have the honors.
Oh,
Oh, you
sorry.
can second that.
I
He could
rescind my
second.
vote.
He might add comments after.
Thank you.
So all those in favor say aye.
You getting around okay?
Aye.